Well, guys, here's some big news. History was made today as the Vatican just elected the first ever American Pope. Yeah, the new Pope is actually from Chicago. It's wild that we have a Pope who might have done a keg stand outside an Eagles game. Isn't that wild? Might have.
Now, does he think the Eagles are in Chicago? He did go to college in Pennsylvania. It's true. New Pope, and the new Pope is, he's a Catholic, and he's from Chicago. He's the first American Pope. Is that because of Trump? We just keep winning. And he is, according to multiple reports, a longtime Republican, registered Republican, voting in Republican primaries, according to multiple reports. It is quite remarkable. Been having fun going back with my brothers in Chicago about this. At least one of whom is a good, practicing, devout Catholic. And it is Friday. Welcome back once again. We remain at 888-630-9625. Just before the top of the hour, I talked about the fact that former United States Supreme Court Justice David Souter has died. And kind of a big deal, definitely a big deal. But we have a great many things to get to today. NYPD moves in to break up pro-Palestinian protest at Brooklyn College. That's not even Columbia University in Manhattan. They're spreading out to the boroughs now. They hate to do that because mostly they're too snotty, Ivy League. They don't go to Brooklyn. They prefer Manhattan, don't you know? They want a penthouse overlooking Central Park, but a lot of people do. But they asked the New York Police Department had to come in again to break up. That means violence, as it always does. Pro-Palestinian, that means anti-Semitic protests. They're wearing their Hamas headdresses and of course, their COVID masks because you know how that is. Oh, I saw another idiot journalist. I was watching video this morning of another idiot journalist woman saying, the COVID pandemic is still on, and those stupid Republicans are acting like the COVID pandemic is over and they've stopped wearing masks. It's like you need to be hit with a dart of some kind. Just amazing stuff. But the Democrat Party, have they firebombed any Jewish locations in the last 24 hours? Well, we'll have to take a look at that. And I talked about the Pulitzer Prize people yesterday and the day before yesterday. Turns out they slipped a Pulitzer Prize to a genocidal Jew hater who loves Hamas. Just amazing stuff. And a former hostage that was released by the Hamas savages had her fingers shot off and was held hostage and eventually released. Former Hamas hostage rips Pulitzer Prize board for awarding Mossab Abu Toha, the modern-day equivalent of Holocaust denier. Yeah, I guess that's fair and true. I might be a little harsher than that, but amazing stuff. British-Israeli dual citizen Emily Damari, 28 years old, was held hostage by the savages until fairly recently. And she saw that the Pulitzer Prize Committee, they should give them the Nobel Peace Prize, too, just to make it complete, because the left poisons everything they touch. But they gave the Pulitzer Prize to Mossab Abu Toha, 32-year-old. Now he's a Pulitzer Prize winner for writing lies about Gaza and hostages and Hamas. And the left is mentally ill. They're a very severely demented group of people. And we call them Democrats. They say that they're fighting for democracy. That's the opposite of the truth. Amazing stuff. They're also in favor of men beating women in all sporting competitions. Just amazing stuff. Another brave woman, female fencer, who took a knee when she was showed up for a fencing competition and said, you're going to fence against this dude over here. He's a man. And she said, I thought this was women's sports. And the Democrats said, men are women now. because it turns out most Democrat men have vaginas. Kind of strange. They may have been born differently, but then maybe not. They're demented. But this whole thing, Stephanie Turner, 31-year-old fencing champion. She found herself, I'd talked about this before, disqualified from a tournament because she refused to compete against a man who they call transgender. There's no such thing as transgender. If you're born male, you're going to be a boy until you're a man, and then you're going to be a man. And you can cut yourself up all you want and change your clothes. You can steal luggage from airports and dress like, something from an Alfred Hitchcock movie called Psycho. But like Sam Brinton, the shaved head, mustachioed luggage thief from 3 different airports, stealing women's luggage and then going home and dressing up. And he was the head of nuclear materials at the Department of Energy during the Biden administration because they're really not well. That reminds me of another story that NBC News reported. NBC News has the story, and I'm not going to dress it up. I'm just going to tell you what NBC News reported, and it's online here, May 8th, 2025, from yesterday. The headline is "The R Word," and they put R word in quotation marks. The R word, embraced by Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, inches back into the mainstream. That's the NBC News, not local news. It's the NBC network. Many still consider the word a disability slur. It's a disability slur. Everything's a slur, except everything that they say. They call everybody Nazis, and then they firebomb the Jewish governor's house and attack every Jew on every campus they can reach in a mob while they dress like members of Hamas. Many still consider the word a disability slur, and while its use has percolated in the comedy world for years, which the Democrat Party murdered, only recently has it, and discussion of it returned, become more common. Now, Pilar Melendez wrote the story for NBC Network News. In a recent episode of his highly influential podcast, Joe Rogan declared what he sees as the latest triumph in the cultural battle over language, the return of the R word. They're so afraid of it, they still haven't said it. Every time I see people that disagree with any that's happening, he said, and this is how they write. Every time I see that people disagree with any that's happening, I think they meant to write anything, any gigantic world events. It's one of these retarded shows where they're screaming, right? It's one of these retarded shows where they're screaming. He said on April 10th on an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, before he interrupted himself to go on a quick rant about the word. And NBC News writes, the word retarded is back. And it's one of the great cultural victories that I think is spurred on probably by podcasts, Joe Rogan said. Rogan is right, NBC News says. Rogan is right, at least to those in some circles. And so they're wrestling with all this. Maybe you guys are just Nazis. What do you think about that? Because of your behavior and so many of the things that you and your people do. Once relegated to the cultural dustbin, the so-called R word, I've never heard anybody call it the R word, has made a resurgence in recent months, used most commonly by people in right-leaning and anti-political correctness worlds, some of whom have tried for years to bring the slur from the social media undercurrents back into the mainstream. Now, I got to tell you, I was out with a friend in the last week. My best girl and I were out with two friends, actually, both husband, wife, father, and mother. He is a man. She is a woman. And we were on a patio. We were having some snacks and a couple of cool beverages and having a nice time. And they have teenage kids. And I was informed by them that their teenage kids refer to people as re. They just say re, all right? He's a re. That's totally re, right? And it's an abbreviation for what NBC News is talking about here. And the NBC people, Joe Rogan is, one of the most, if not the most popular podcast in the United States and maybe the world, for all I know. And I have not met Joe Rogan. I don't know Joe Rogan. I know people that are enormous fans of Joe Rogan and love his podcast. But the only reason that I think they got to this, you notice the date that I used were April 10th. That is interesting that they're doing a story on it yesterday on NBC News. But the reason for that is that, they've got people to attack here, and they'll attack Joe Rogan because he's Joe Rogan and they don't listen to his podcast. But then they continue, the NBC News people. Tesla CEO Elon Musk now frequently uses the word on X to disparage everyone from Danish astronauts to Ben Stiller. I don't know the Danish astronaut, but I do know Ben Stiller, and I got to say, could be re. In March, Ye, Y-E, the rapper formerly known as Kanye West, now I'm Ye. So NBC News says, oh, now he's Ye. Now I got to call NBC News. I'm going to tell them my name. And from now on, I go by Your Majesty. I go by Sire and Your Majesty. So you should just refer to me that way. So Ye, the rapper formerly known as Kanye West, used it in questioning the mental capacity of Beyonce and Jay-Z's twins, only to later issue an apology. The FX show, The English Teacher, or just English Teacher, included a bit about how kids are not into being woke, and they're saying the R word again. And again, they don't use the word, they just say R word in quotation marks. And a recent Netflix comedy special invoked the word repeatedly. Now, this is the word fascists, the word burners. I've been calling them the word burners for a long time. And kids get to use words, and you know what? We all get to use words. Some are impolite words, and usually they refer to Democrats. Now, the Democrats call everybody the worst names in the world, and they love doing that because there's only the fight, as Hillary Clinton is fond of saying. And just ask her husband, ask the Secret Service detail that has the bad luck of being assigned to her. She'll hit you in the head with ashtrays, just like she has her husband, and hit Secret Service agents in the back of the head, as she has before, because she's not a good person. But NBC News says the word is making a comeback. I tell you, my friends with the teenagers saying their teenage kids just say re, and it's short and for retard or retarded, and just amazing. Now, I've got to say I was interacting with a young woman in her 20s fairly recently, and it was during the fires in Los Angeles, and I made a crack about how they should drop Gavin Newsom on the fire in Los Angeles because, he's a retardant. He's a retardant, I said. And because they use airplanes and helicopters to drop fire retardants on these planes, on these fires from airplanes and helicopters, rather. And as intro, a very smart young woman, college-educated young woman, very bright. I like her very much. And she got back to me the next day and said, you use that word, and I didn't think that was a word. I think she's 25 years old, never heard the word because the left burned the word as she grew up and went to college and went to high school and never heard the word in her life because the left is so afraid of the R word that they won't use the term fire retardant, even though that's what the substance is called that should drop on fires from airplanes and helicopters. And NBC News has the story, and they're afraid of their own story. The word burners. I should just call them Nazis every day, and that's would that be better? Because while you're burning Jewish things and firebombing Jewish governors and attacking Jewish students in Brooklyn and in Manhattan, and then they go call everybody Nazis. They call the Israelis Nazis while they're attacking Jews everywhere they can find them. No sense of irony. They use the words, but they don't know what they mean. Hey, if you've had enough of the big wireless runaround, your cell phone people, it's time to switch to Consumer Cellular. When you go to Consumer Cellular, you're going to get the same fast, reliable, nationwide network coverage as the big wireless companies, but without the big wireless prices and without the mega corporation shenanigans, I tell you, where they force you into an unlimited plan, you don't even need, you don't use all that stuff, and they make you pay more money for it, even though you don't need it. Consumer Cellular isn't one of those prepaid options. You pick a plan, you know exactly what your bill is going to be every month without fail. So, listen, it's very easy to switch. Just call and you speak to an actual human being on the telephone. Remember that? And they're based right here in the United States of America. Remember that? They make switching your plan really easy and fast. And right now, you get your second month free with my special promo code because you hang out with me. And that code is Chris, C-H-R-I-S. That's my first name. Taxes and third-party fees will apply. So check out consumercellular.com/Chris for more information or give them a call the old-fashioned way, 1-800-760-0702. Yes, sir. Yeah, I saw that story in NBC and NBC Online. I said, aren't they bold and brave? Until you read it. And then you realize that they're nothing of the kind. Just more lefties pretending to be journalists. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. I want to do a call right here, but I noticed that I've damaged the clock again. I keep doing that. But we have Joe Biden. We have transgender Democrats, but that's redundant, isn't it? Isn't that repetitive? Unnecessarily duplicative? Amazing stuff. And Democrats continue to spread falsehoods, even in congressional hearings, because they know that the news media is never going to call them on it. They lie and they lie and they lie and they say all kinds of wacky things. And where do you hear Joe Biden? He went on the View to be fluffed by professional fluffers, and he still came off like a complete maroon. And then they brought his doctor out, his handler, his caregiver, fake Dr. Jill Biden. And I got to tell you, the country we're living in needs a lot of help, needs a lot of saving. And the next generation, we have to inform and enlighten the next generation, open their eyes so they can save us all. So who is this dim-witted Democrat fraud liar person that Congresswoman Madeleine Dean on Capitol Hill yesterday, talking to Kash Patel in a hearing and lying that January 6th, police officers were killed. Oh, did you kill them, Congresswoman? Because there were no police officers killed on January 6th. Ashley Babbitt was killed after serving 12 years in the Air Force, shot and killed by a U.S. Capitol Police officer. But Congresswoman Madeleine Dean, I don't know if they're this stupid or if they're this corrupt, but Congresswoman Madeleine Dean is the only two possibilities are that she's that stupid or she's that corrupt. There was a police officer, U.S. Capitol Police officer, murdered by a left-wing racist black nationalist who crashed his car into U.S. Capitol Police officer William Evans, Billy Evans, and that was a murder, crashing his car into the police officer and killing him against a barricade outside, a horrible death, severely injuring a second U.S. Capitol Police officer. Another Democrat Party suicide attack. The Democrat then jumped out of the car and attacked more police with a giant knife that he had just bought. But never mind that. The Democrats don't remember that. They don't remember his name. I'll bet you $1 that she doesn't remember his name. Billy Evans, I remember his name. And the Democrats, they're not on the side of civilization. They're not on the side of truth. They're stupid and corrupt. Now, yesterday, Kash Patel hearing in the House of Representatives, and they're attacking Kash Patel. They wanted to get back to firebombing governors' mansions or firebombing police cars or firebombing police stations, which the Democrats have done so much of. But this dim-witted congresswoman, just amazing, Representative Marilyn Dean, she talking to Kash Patel yesterday and came up with this ridiculous whopper that Joe Biden kept peddling this too, but that's because he's so incredibly stupid. We know that his brain, she's a broke. His brain, she's a no good. And that explains why Joe Biden spreads this disinformation, misinformation, should have all forms of communication pulled from him, and he shouldn't be allowed to have the car keys either. Democrat Congresswoman Marilyn Dean.
During your Senate confirmation hearings, you repeatedly denied having any involvement as a private citizen in the firing of FBI officials who engaged in the prosecution against January 6 insurrectionists, the violent rioters who beat and killed Capitol police officers, and whom you referred to as political prisoners.
And then she sort of, if you're going to be that stupid, try not to be smug about it. I think I said Marilyn. Her name is Madeline Dean, but nobody really knows her because she's an irrelevant, unintelligent, unserious fraud of a member of Congress, a typical Democrat. Amazing stuff. And the phony, corrupt media. FBI Director Kash Patel erupts at Democratic lawmaker over Capitol riot. Does anybody remember the 3 days of rioting at the Trump White House when the president and the first family were evacuated to the nuclear shelter underneath the White House? While Democrats set fire to Lafayette Park and to the Church of the Presidents across the street and injured 160 to 180 police officers with organized, nationwide, orchestrated violence with they brought in bricks and pallets of frozen water bottles and bags full of M80s that you can call them firecrackers, but they're an eighth of a stick of dynamite, and they blow your hand off if you clutched one in your hand and lit the fuse. Just amazing. FBI Director Kash Patel got into a heated back and forth with Democratic Representative Madeline Dean of Pennsylvania while testifying before House Appropriations Committee on Wednesday, the day before yesterday. Patel has clashed with most Democratic lawmakers over his steadfast support for President Donald Trump. Oh, is that why? Maybe it's because they're lying. We got a lying Sacagawea here, don't we? And maybe it's because they lie and say false things all the time. Could that be the reason for the clash?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing perjury. Tell the American people how I broke the law and committed a felony. Have the audacity to actually put the facts forward instead of lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second donation hit.
20-second donation hit. That's good. The frauds at Newsweek magazine. Patel has clashed with most Democratic lawmakers over his steadfast support for President Donald Trump. I remember the Attorney General during the Obama administration, Eric H. Holder Jr., as the New York Times liked to call him, Eric Holder, as most people call him, and he said he was President President Obama's wingman. Remember that? And the news media loved that.
I'm happy. I'm still enjoying what I'm doing. There's still work to be done. I'm still a president's wingman, so I'm there with my boy.
Yeah, my boy. I'm still President Wingman, and he's the attorney general. And the news media said, well, there is wingman too. So the Newsweek magazine and the New York Times, they were wingmen too. So, but if you support President Trump and you're in the Trump administration, then that's not how it's supposed to work. And that's what Newsweek is implying here. Sure, Patel, sure. Public backing of a number of far-right conspiracy theories over the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, like no police officers were killed. Is that another right-wing conspiracy theory that he's spreading? Or are those the facts? Is that the truth? The truth is not the business that Newsweek magazine finds itself in. Amazing. And they're still talking Russian interference in the 2016 election. How about CIA interference in our 2020 election? Should we look at that? You third world tree-dwelling yada yadas. Amazing stuff. Isn't that amazing? And Newsweek magazine says, the Senate narrowly confirmed Kash Patel to lead the FBI by a vote of 51-49 in February, with 2 Republicans, Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine, joining Democrats to oppose Patel's confirmation. Maybe they think a lot of police were killed on January 6th, too. Low IQ theater. We have the dumbest Congress I've ever witnessed. And I have been paying attention for some time now. All right, speaking of the dumbest Congress I've ever witnessed, let's get to Joe Biden, because Joe Biden was the president of the United States. It's almost impossible to believe. But he got the job because the Democrats put him up, and they're still trying to convince us, or at least themselves, that, no, he was sharp as a tack, really good. Isn't he wonderful? And they brought his doctor on, who's not a doctor, Dr. Jill Biden, not a doctor, on The View yesterday, an ABC news product, not a news product. But let's go to, it's soundbite number 1 on today's cut sheet. Sarah Haynes, asks, talking to Joe Biden, asked why Kamala Harris didn't win the election against Donald Trump. And the answer will not surprise you, you bunch of racist, misogynist, sexist pigs. Joe Biden has a very low opinion of the American people because he hangs out with a bunch of R words.
Why do you think the vice president lost, and were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised, not because I didn't think the vice president was the most qualified person to be president. She is. She's qualified to be president of the United States of America.
Yeah.
But I was surprised.
Moron.
I wasn't surprised because
the most
they went
qualified.
the route of the sexist route, the whole route. I mean, this is a woman. She's this, she's that. I mean, it really. I've never seen quite as successful and a consistent campaign under the notion that a woman couldn't lead the country and a woman of mixed race.
Ah, right. Every leader for the future, except Joe Biden, crusty old white guy, every leader going forward, according to the Democrats, the party of slavery and the plantations and the Confederacy and Jim Crow and the KKK, that's the Democratic Party, just in a nutshell, which is where they belong. Isn't that amazing? So sexist, it's the sexist route, and she's a woman of color. Now, what he did just explain is why he chose her as his running mate, because he's such a racist, and all the Democrats are such racists, and always have been, and misogynists, that they chose her. And he said out loud, before he chose her, that he would only choose a woman of color, the language that the left uses, their language, the R-word language, and then he chose her because that narrowed the field down to like 3 or 4 people in the country that might have a chance of, claiming it. And he just, that they'd qualify for the job. But Joe Biden said, the most qualified, she's the most qualified person for the job. Yeah. She couldn't open a can of beans if you gave her a can of beans and a can opener. She couldn't get anything done. But you're sexist, and she's a woman of color, and that's why she didn't win, of mixed race. And that's why she was chosen by the Democrats, the party of the bullwhip and the lynching tree. Isn't that amazing? And I got to say, number 1A, I just love the soundbite. He didn't say this yesterday, but just a little walk down memory lane.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys. And I did. And back in those days, to show how things have changed, one of the things you had to use, if you used pomade in your hair, you had to wear a bathing cap.
Yeah, and I said, what are you doing, Esther? He calls him Esther Williams because she used to be in movies 60 years ago, swimming, and she was amazing. She'd be a better president than Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. Esther Williams would be a better president. That's right. More or less long-forgotten swimming champion and movie star, but never mind that. And Joe Biden, you may remember, he's such a creepy weirdo. He claims that he used to be a lifeguard for I'm sure he saved nobody. If anybody went underwater, they died because Joe Biden was the lifeguard. But he's talking about black kids who he calls cockroaches or something, rubbing the white hair on his legs. He's a freak.
I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun.
What?
And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
Ooh, keep the kids away from him. I'm sorry, roaches? Yeah, and Corn Pop was a bad dude. He has been an R word for a long, long time, as they say at NBC News. Just amazing stuff. All right, but let's get back to yesterday on The View, which is an ABC News product. And who's their lead anchor again? Oh, yeah, George Stephanopoulos. And he's a longtime Democrat Party apparatchik, Capitol Hill, Clinton campaign, Clinton White House. And then instantly, bam, just like that, network news anchor. They use the word qualified a lot, as Joe Biden just did about Kamala Harris, but I don't think they know what that word means. They had a woman, Alyssa Farah, was on The View yesterday. And Joe Biden, they didn't have their regular cadre of Maroons. They had some stunt Maroons. And this one was Alyssa Farah.
You had previously said that you thought that you would have won. Since then, Donald Trump won all the battleground states and made inroads with almost every major demographic, from working class voters to Hispanic men to black men. Knowing what you know now, do you think you would have beat him?
Yeah, he's still got 7 million fewer votes.
Yes.
There you go. Okay. A lot of people didn't show up. Number one. Number two, they're very close in those toss-up states. It was it wasn't a slam dunk.
It wasn't a slam dunk. In 2020, I remember penitentiary faced John Brennan, the Communist Party voting CIA director that Barack Obama selected to head the CIA. He was involved in that felonious 51 letter where they lied like communists from the Soviet days about the Hunter Biden laptop reporting, which was all true out of the New York Post. They didn't win any Pulitzer Prizes, though, did they? No, they didn't, because the Pulitzer Committee is a Democrat Party circle fest in a hot tub. Isn't that amazing? And he had 7 million fewer votes. He had a lot more than Kamala Harris. And the polls after the Joe Biden election, they showed that had the American public known the truth about the Hunter Biden reporting, that it would have swung 8 million votes. Was it 8 million votes or 8%? It was one or the other. But would it change the outcome of the election? Just amazing. And I'm not done with the dimwits at The View and Joe Biden, and then fake Dr. Jill Biden came in at the end to try to save him, and everything fails every day with these people. Hey, are you a yo-yo dieter? You know, you lose weight, then you gain it all back again, maybe plus a couple of extra pounds. Breaking free of your yo-yo diet pattern is one of the main reasons that doctors created Lean. Lean, brought to you by Brick House Nutrition. It's a supplement. It's not an injection, and you don't need a prescription from a doctor. Lean targets weight loss in 3 very powerful and important ways. It helps you to maintain healthy blood sugar levels, really big. Helps you to control appetite and cravings, huge. And it helps you to burn fat by converting that fat into energy, genius. Listen, if you're tired of losing weight, then gaining it all back again, Lean was created for you. And I can get you started with 20% off because we're friends and we hang out together when you enter Plant20, Plant20 at TakeLean.com. That's code PLANT20 at TakeLean.com. The statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any disease, and is not a substitute or alternative for care from healthcare providers. Yeah, Joe Biden and the news media. ABC News. This is ABC News. I didn't label them ABC News. That's who pays them. Millions and millions of dollars each to do propaganda for Communist Party voters like John Brennan that tampered in our 2020 election without consequence.
They went the sexist route, the whole route. I mean, this is a woman, she's this, she's that.
All right, I haven't gone to the telephones in a long time. I still have more Joe Biden to get to from the re-file. Also, something I didn't know this, because I don't watch The View, is Alyssa Farrar-Griffin person that we were just talking about. Apparently she worked for some brief period of time in the first Trump administration, and that doesn't mean much to me. That's okay. She's on The View. She's supposed to be their fake conservative or something, I guess. She's a Trump hater now. She's a Trump hater, as I understand it. Yeah, who am I? I didn't know. I couldn't pick her out of a lineup. She's on The View. So, All right, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Dave, calling from Silver Spring, Maryland. Dave, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Dave.
I love the Democrats. They could have picked Hillary Clinton, but instead they picked Barack Obama, who identifies as a man. They could have picked among three women, Tulsi Gabbard, Marianne Williamson, and Kamala Harris, but they picked a man who identifies as mentally stable. And then they turn around and tell us that the Republicans are the misogynists for not picking women. I was watching an interview. Somebody on the street was interviewing a bunch of Democrat kids about Luigi, Greasy Luigi, and one of them said, yeah, he's a hero because he killed the United Healthcare guy, and another one said, well, he didn't kill anybody, he's innocent. So it goes back to the Chris Plant rule that Democrats are like a bunch of squirrels in the backyard.
Yeah, and they use the words, but they don't know what they mean, and the Democrat Party is, I think it's officially a mental illness. It should be identified as a mental illness and then banished.